So to get the spark plugs, you need an 8mm socket for this cover here. You need a strong pair of hands and a 16mm spark plug socket. To start, you take this cover off with two 8mm bolts and put them somewhere safe. You don't want to lose them. Take this cover off, and then you'll be presented with the core packs along there. There's 4 of them, and they all connect through there. All you need to do is pull them off. They're quite tight, but you just put a finger there and a finger there, and pull all 4 of them off, and then you'll be presented with the spark plugs you can see there. To remove them, preferably you need a spark plug socket, a 16mm one. I don't have one. I have a deep socket, very similar. The only difference is inside the socket of mine, there's no rubber grommet to kind of grab the spark plugs. So all I can do is stick it in. You should feel it bite. It'll be quite tight probably, and just undo it. Now it's fairly loose, so this is where the difficult part is if you don't have a special spark plug socket. I actually do have one somewhere, but I don't know where it is. The aim is to basically make it loose and make it fall out of its where it's sitting. So at the moment it's dead in the middle, so it's still sitting. So you want to wiggle it around basically and get it so that it's not sat in its cover. You can see now it's slightly on the angle, so I've kind of got it to a point where, hopefully, with a little magnetic tool, I should be able to pull it out. So I've got this sort of magnet on a stick, and the aim is to try and get it out with that. So let's see if we can get it. Yeah, like that. And that, now you do need a magnet on the stick. So, you know, you can maybe get it with some long nose pliers if they're really thin, but I've tried that before and it's a bloody nightmare. When you get new spark plugs, what you want to do first is check the gap online for the Hyundai 1.2 2015. You need between 0.8 and 0.9 mil. So what I've done is I've used this tool, which has got the thicknesses of various different sizes, and you can combine them. That makes 0.8, and I'm just making sure that this fits. So the new spark plugs actually had quite a small gap, so I just sort of squeeze them in, and that'll push the gap to the correct size. And the old one's gap was actually a little bit bigger. You can decide whether to match the gap for your old spark plugs or use the recommended one. I've used the recommended one because I don't know, maybe these ones are incorrect. So I've got all of the old ones out and all the new ones lined up there. I've checked the gaps. The new ones are slightly smaller actually than the old ones, but you know, that's something I'll just deal with if it presents a problem, a misfire or anything. With the new ones, there will be packaging, usually some cardboard tubes to protect the ends to keep the gap the same size through transport. There might be some plastic packaging on these bits as well, so just make sure that the plugs are, you know, empty of packaging. Now this is the difficult part, is getting this seated before we do it up. If you have a spark plug socket, you'll actually probably find it quite easy, but as I mentioned, I don't have one. So what we're going to do is use the magnet, get it on the end, make sure you have trust in your magnet, and we're going to try and basically be really careful and get it seated so that it isn't cross-threaded. This is easier said than done. Okay, we'll have to try with that. It's sat in the hole. Hopefully we can get this so that it isn't cross-threaded. If you feel any resistance, just stop and take it out and do it again. You do not want to cross-thread your spark plugs. I'm not feeling any resistance here, so hopefully it's in well. Keep tightening. Okay, and that's feeling tight now. so we can get an angle of it. Yeah, and you can see it's sat in the centre. So it should feel fairly free spinning, and then it should tighten pretty quickly. If it gets tight early, just don't risk it. Take it out and try and seat it again. So I'm going to do this for all 4 spark plugs, and just do it hand tight, and then you can check the torques, which I'll. Okay, so the torque settings are 15 to 25 Newton meters. Right, so I've set the torque to 20 Newton meters, so in between the 15 and 25 that it says, and I'll just torque them all down. Once you torque them all down, all you need to do is get the coil packs back on top. You can follow the order from there. It should be fairly self-explanatory. They've all got different lengths of the cables. So that one's number 2. Long one goes up high, and it's number 1. And then that one, number 3, is on the bottom. So there are little clips for the cables to go in, like that. And then just give it a big push, and then you should feel it sort of suck itself in, like that. And you can see kind of seated the rubber seals there. Difficult to see. There's no gap now between the base and the coil pack. And then just pop the little sort of cover back on and do up the bolts. Any issues that come up once you've done this, you can obviously directly diagnose it as probably a spark plug issue. So if you get any misfires after changing the spark plugs, check which cylinder it's on if you can, change the spark plugs round, see if it follows it. I'll give you any issues. Or if you use the wrong spark plugs, potentially you've got misfires across all cylinders, then put the old ones back in and see if it works. Now, one of the things to stress whilst doing this job, I was really careful with putting the spark plugs back in. So when you take the old ones out, obviously you want to drop the new ones back in. But if you drop it uncontrolled and then sort of try and push it in to twist it down, you might damage the end of the spark plug. So they're fairly brittle. So if you just drop it in, you're going to smack the end of that on the cylinder. If you push down, that gap's going to change, and that obviously could cause issues you have. So be careful when you put them in.